I don't think this is a fight. I think he said something much softer than was originally reported by the media. I think that he heard one side of the story, which is probably by the Mexican government. He didn't see the tremendous strain that, the border is causing us with respect to illegal immigration, with the drugs pouring across the border.
And he is handling this just right, and he couldn't have ordered up a better final act before South Carolina votes tomorrow. Donald Trump there on 550 KTSA and FM 107.1, and we're just getting that word. I know everybody here gasped when they heard it about author Harper Lee. She was 89 years old, and I can remember just so vividly the first time I read that book, and it was one of those books I had to read for school, To Kill a Mockingbird. And those books you had to read for school, a lot of them were like, oh. To Kill a Mockingbird was just transcendent, just such a fantastic book, and a great, great writer who had this one book, right, for 50-something years. One book. A book that won the Pulitzer Prize, a book that became a fantastic movie starring Gregory Peck, but still just this one book. And then last year, there was this big announcement that there would be another Harper Lee book, and it was published. It was called Go Set a Watchman. And now they're saying that really wasn't a second book. That was really an early draft of To Kill a Mockingbird, and there was kind of a letdown about that. Harper Lee was 89. And we'll have more on that coming up at 10 o'clock here on 550 KTSA. Back to the story of Donald Trump and Pope Francis and how their paths crossed and why their paths crossed. On our KTSA Copenhagen Furniture Newsmaker line right now is author James Henry, whose book is Corporation U, and he has some things to say and has been doing some thinking about Pope Francis and Donald Trump. And James Henry, it's good to have you with us, and good morning to you. As a Catholic, I was, I have to say, I wasn't that surprised that we had a comment from Pope Francis, because he does seem to speak off the cuff a lot, especially on these airplane news conferences. Mm-hmm. But it seems like a moment that he would maybe like to have back. I'm Catholic as well. Before we continue, I just want to prayers and sympathies to Harper Lee's family. I'm a writer. Yeah. When you were telling the story about reading To Kill a Mockingbird, I mean, it's one of the few awesome books for the movie. Right.
Which is awesome too. So prayers for her family. Obviously, she influenced a lot of people.
Sure did.
Now, Donald Trump and the Pope. I mean, I received a attack from my publicist right away. Like, comment on this. I need a few lines. And right away, as soon as I saw the headlines, I'm like, here we go again. It's really much to do about nothing. We have a man who doesn't speak English. Everything has to be translated first. He does speak off the cuff, but, unfortunately what the media does is we're all about headlines today. So how can we grasp people? So, let's look at the headlines as a writer. Donald Trump, not Christian. He didn't say Donald Trump was not a Christian. He didn't even say Donald Trump was not Christian. He said the person described to him by that reporter was not. That's not a Christian act.
Right.
That's not what Christians do. It wasn't just about building a wall. It was about people who don't build bridges.
Right.
So, the expanded text really shows that Pope Francis didn't put his foot in his mouth. In fact, he closed it by saying it needs to be seen if he said these things. And for this, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt.
Mm-hmm.
He basically said, who am I to judge?
That's a good
Donald
point.
Trump?
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's how he closed it.
Mm-hmm.
Really, what everyone kind of missed in that interview is he called out the Democrats. He called abortion a crime, and he said it's an absolute evil. Now, nowhere in the media did anyone say, Pope Francis, Democrats, absolute evil. Right? Think about it.
That's true. And you make a good point. You make a good point in that he is often led down these paths by questions, and you make a good point that often we don't get the whole answer or the context of it. That happened from the very beginning of this Pope's tenure. For Donald Trump, do you think he's handled it well, or has he taken it to be more than it was?
No, I read his release on Facebook, and then I just heard your clip, and I heard that clip earlier yesterday, and I turned to my wife in the car. We were driving in the car, and I said, "Okay, he gets it."
Yep.
Right, and you know, he's kind of a bright guy. Everyone wants to paint him as the village idiot, and he's the furthest thing from the village idiot. I mean, I grew up in New York, and Trump Tower. Everyone knows Trump. You can ride down Taconic Parkway. There's a Trump State Park.
Yep.
He donated a bunch of land. He came into Central Park in New York City when I think it took 10 years for them to build a skating rink.
Yeah.
And he just finally said, "Here's the money, guys. I'm going to build it." He's a media expert. So, you know, sometimes he speaks off the cuff, but I think he speaks less off the cuff than Pope Francis speaks off the cuff. I think everything that he says is pretty strategic.
Yeah. No, I think you're right about that. And I'll tell you what, James Henry, I apologize that we don't have more time. I want to have you back and talk about your book and more about this. I'm up against a time wall right here, but James Henry's new
Corporation U.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. We'll have you back, I promise, because I do want to do that. But the book is Corporation U, James Henry, the author, and